This video is the first video in a three-part video series about the gods in my D&D world of Pam'Ent. This video will be covering the Serpentine gods, the oldest gods, and the almost forgotten gods of my world. The next video will be about the Castornocan gods, the most worshipped of the gods, and then the third video will be about the non-Castornocan gods, which is any being that is strong enough to be worshipped like a god, but isn't really a god in the traditional sense. And with that said, let's get into the video. In the beginning there was nothing, but save for the one thing. You can call this one thing a great many things, for you can see it in just about everything. You can see it in well-formed dew after a night of cold, refreshing, moist air, and a well-made hammer, and a good pint of ale. Just about anything contains the DNA, the essence of this everything. For they created everything. At least their children did. They didn't create it themselves. But the scholars, doing what the scholars do, came up with a name for this everything. They call it Ingrisha Infernaticus, the great two-headed serpent. Ingrisha Infernaticus lived alone with themselves for billions upon billions of centuries, needing only to talk to their other half. But slowly the dark, dead head of Ingrisha Infernaticus formed a lust for something greater. He lusted for creation, for someone to take care of and lead into a better life, for clay to mold in any way he saw fit. The divine power of Ingrisha Infernaticus swelled in their scared stomach. With his sugar-sweet lips and silvered tongue, the dark head spoke to the light, and Ingrisha Infernaticus created existence. The belly of Ingrisha Infernaticus inflated with the fetus of Kronos and Alarum, the god of time and the god of space. At this time, existence was just but bare elements, a blazing ball of fire encircled by a ring of stone, set in opposing planes of air and water. The lust inside the dark head had grown stiff, and no matter how hard he tried to satisfy himself, making mountains and valleys, he wanted a creation that lived, breathed, that could obey and disobey, love and fear him. So once again, he spoke to the light. And once again, the light bowed to the words of her darker brother. Life was born in the form of the Titans. A second womb formed inside of Ingrisha Infernaticus, next to the womb of the twins Kronos and Alarum, time and space. In this brand new womb laid the fetus of Io, god of life. The Titans lived on the ring of stone, breathed the air and drank the water, and saw through the light of the burning star. The dark head's lust had gone, but it was replaced by hatred as he watched his creation worship the light and turn their backs to the dark. The hatred in the dark grew until he could not stand the light. The dark ran away, tearing Ingrisha Infernaticus in two, and opening the two wombs, giving birth to Kronos and Alarum and Io. The dark half of Ingrisha Infernaticus fled into the deepest, darkest depths of the creation he begged into existence. He shriveled and shrank and gave himself the new name, Asmodeus, creating the 9 hells from his own blood. The light stayed to take care of his children. Kronos, the god of time, was a 3-headed snake, filled with the head of a lion, the head of a bull, and the head of a titan. Kronos soon took their job of monitoring the flow of time. Io, the god of life, was an enormous, rainbow-colored true dragon. Io, filled with the same lust of her father, created hundreds of beasts and monstrosities, but they all died in the hostility of the ring. So Alarum, at the request of her sister, made the 26 atmospheres. 3 large atmospheres known as Pam'Ent were the favorites of Io. Over the centuries, Io fell in love with Ingoth, a powerful ruling titan. Io ran away from his responsibilities. Io lived a quiet life for a god, spending every moment possible with Ingoth, his lover. For centuries they lived in the far east of the great continent of Pam'Ent, in a palace made from a cave. Eventually, in a moment of extreme passion, they had intercourse. Afterwards, both of them were pregnant. 36 years later, during the middle of the day, Ingoth gave birth to the first of her 2 kids. The second came 12 hours later, in the middle of the night. During the birth of the second child, Ingoth died. The child born during the day was a long, snake-like creature with 12 arms. The creature was the first of the Behirs, also known as the Daymare beast. The one born during the night was a bear-like lizard with long arms and the tusks of a walrus. This was the first of the nightmare beasts. After the death of Ingoth, Io abandoned the kids and flew to the west, where he gave birth 64 years later. Io was carrying 3 children, Tiamat, Bahamut, and Sarador. But during the century-long pregnancy, Tiamat ate Bahamut and Sarador. Tiamat was born with 10 heads, but when she was but 100 years old, Bahamut ate his way out of his sister. All of the children of Bahamut, Tiamat, and Sarador have an inherent hatred of Titans and their smaller offspring giants. Io's favorite creations were the Castronach. The Castronach had some of the power of their grandfather. The Castronach and all of their descendants can create gods through worship. Through the centuries of existing, the Castronach have created hundreds of gods. These gods found the ring overly crowded, so they created the outer planes as their home. Over the years, the pantheon got stronger and larger. Alarum, the god of space, had 5 children that he created with himself. Nyx, the god of the void, the god of the lacking, the god of nothing, the god of whenever something isn't where it's supposed to be. Agni, the god of fire. Houfu, god of earth. Bunzi, the god of the water. Ninlil, god of air. Those are the core 5 gods of the world, the elemental gods. All 5 of those gods had children with each other to create a great many gods. If you want to see the family tree, this is what it looks like. Yes, I had to tier it because it's that wide. There are 4 generations of descendants of Alarum. The first generation is Alarum himself. Then you have the second generation, which is the 5 gods I've previously mentioned, followed by the 3rd generation and 4th generation, where the names get insane. Because the rule with the Serpentine gods is that the god's name is as many letters as all of the letters of both of its parents' names. The only god who is, and then the longer your name is, the more powerful, the less powerful you are. So a Nyx is far stronger than Chiana Kawada Kwati Yatatil. And so yeah, the one god that breaks this rule, the breaking of the rule to prove the rule, is Grim, the god of death, who, while being a part of the 3rd generation of gods, only has a 4-letter name, making him the 3rd strongest. As the Castronach gods created the outer realms, the god Kronos, the god of time, split themselves into 3 parts: Kronos Infernos, Kronos Teros, and Kronos Celestos. One stayed on the ring of stone, mainly in Pam'Ent. One went down to the lower planes, mainly living in the 9 hells, and the other, Celestos, went up to the top. Kronos Infernos, the one that went down to the lower planes, looks has the head of a bull and some serpentine features, but mainly a humanoid body. Teros, the one that lives on the material plane, is also goes by the name Loki, and often disguises themselves as a crow or a raven, and watches events that happen, and reads the memories of people, and will sometimes yell them out to cause confusion, being the most willing to get involved of the gods of time. And then Kronos Celestos, the one that lives up in the upper planes, mainly in mainly in the seven heavens or Mount Olympia, but he has a giant traveling castle that he takes between all of the upper planes, throws giant raucous parties to figure out what the angels and the gods are up to in the upper planes. So those have been the Serpentine gods, and next week we will be covering the Castornucan gods.